this might be a tough decision right now.
My
but
team
I'm
did
not just
absolutely garbage.
NFL games that were like,
Right.
whoa.
I actually don't
Had
understand.
a lot of mixed feelings. Welcome, Disgruntled. We have another guest here on the League of the Wings.
Hey Disgruntled, this is the 7th part of this series and hopefully the last, because the League of the Wings is transitioning to football season, as in why you hear the loud fan coming from my computers, because I am exporting an hour and 20-minute long podcast, and it's about 9 gigabytes large, almost 10 gigabytes, so that's what the noise is. But we are heading into football season, and Titus and I just filmed the first fantasy recap, free agency recap, the NFL football themed podcast. And the reason why I'm doing this one is because I forgot to do one last week, and it's almost been 3 weeks it's almost been 2 full weeks that I missed a podcast. But luckily I have one exporting, and this one should be episode 102 or episode 103, because I'm going to be posting it all today because I just want to catch up so that I'm not behind in the NFL season. And this rule that I made a couple weeks ago, when I did miss my first week ever in 100 weeks in a row, 99 weeks in a row or whatever, I made a little exception where I can just post 2 in 1 week and it'll still count as it being continued. But this is the longest stretch of time where I haven't posted a podcast. I've missed a podcast. It feels weird. I did not like it last week, and it will never happen again until this podcast ends. But this is why I think this is going to be the last experience in the woods that I have, or that I'm like podcasts like this, part 7. And it's just because we're transitioning into football season. So we're not going to have random ass topics like we've been this off season. This is probably the most random topic. Off season. I guess we only had 2 off seasons between NFL seasons. But I feel like last off season, between NFL seasons, or the off season NFL. I guess last off season, comparatively to this one, just had more a format, and I had a shit ton more interviews, where I think I only had 2, maybe 3 interviews. This come around, if that, I think I only had 1, like I said in the last podcast. But everything I should say in this one, I should finish it up. And yes, I'm going to be doing it. Sorry, speaking a little too fast. But I've been speaking a little too fast, and I get like hiccups and stuff. I can't speak. But this should be the last part, because I am going to be going over half an hour if it does come to that point. So yeah, I'm going to be going over half an hour instead of the under 30 minutes that I've been doing, because I have a little bit more time to edit. And the only reasons why I've been doing half an hour and below is to save time, and I just feel like shorter podcasts through the off season, when there's not much of a topic or not much of a format like the interviews a couple off seasons ago. I feel like shorter ones are the best format for random ass topics. But I should finish in under half an hour. But let's start with bugs. So my experience with bugs at my old house, Lakewood House. So this is my woods experience, part number 7. My experience with bugs. There are a shit ton of bugs where I live. I have to deal with mosquitoes. We also talked about ground hornets and me running into ground hornets and getting stung. There's just a shit ton of other bugs too. When I was very little, there's ticks. Oh, there's a few stories that I have about ticks. There's just roly-polies, worms, just a bunch of different bugs, water bugs when we had the pond. So my experience with bugs has a lot. My first little story is that there's these weird bugs. I don't know what it is, but it's like a flying creature with like huge ass pincers. It's like that big. It has huge ass pincers, and the first encounter that I had with one of these is that when we had the swing set when I was little, before we gave it to our neighbors, we had a slide on the swing set, and I usually play underneath the slide when I was little, because it made like, I don't know, I just like playing under it. But the one time when I went under it, I saw this huge ass bug it was like huge wings and like pincers. And since then, I've only seen 2, maybe 3 of these since then. But it was just a wild thing, and I immediately started to run out. I like sprinted out of the slide underneath the slide to get away from it, and I came back to investigate, and I kind of poked with it and played with it, but it just like stayed still. I still don't know to this day what kind of bug it was, what the name of it was, if it's poisonous. So that's one of the distinct memories from when I was little. I had a few bad experiences with ticks, because one time I was playing in the woods with my dad, and I was like maybe 7. We were just like roaming the woods, just walking and just doing random shit. I forget what we were doing. When I came back, we always checked for ticks because of how thick my hair was. It was just common practice. After we like came back from the woods, we would check my hair just to see if there's any ticks. And the one time that we did, thankfully, we found 7 total ticks in my hair, crawling and shit. I don't know if I like ran into a nest of them, or like I don't know how I got this many, but like they started to nest into my hair and like started to like inject, like clamp on to my head to start sucking blood. But luckily none of them were too deep, and he was easily able to get them all off. But it was just crazy. And then there's another time when I was little, my mom and I were like sitting on the playground or play set that we had, and we were just sitting down like right in front of the slide, but we were like up on the platform that it had, and she just picked off deer ticks one by one, and she found like 10 of them on my back alone. And deer ticks are the worst because like they're not like normal ticks like the big brown ones, but they're tiny little specks that you can barely see. So you have to really look out for it. They kind of look like blackheads if you're not looking careful enough with like a first glance. Yeah, I just had really bad luck with ticks, and then there's been times where I went down into my basement after like a campfire, and like I fall asleep, and then I wake up and there's just a tick crawling on my arm. Ticks are my least favorite. It probably goes ticks then mosquitoes as my least favorite insects. Ticks just because you can't see them, and then they like bury into your skin and it's a pain in the ass to get out. I just remember this one time that I had a tick in my head, and my mom literally had to like cut it, like take it out, and like with the point of a knife, like just carefully, she didn't like stab me or anything, but she had to get like a knife, like poke it a little bit just to like wedge it out. And there wasn't any blood, like she was able to do it carefully. But it's just, that's how careful you have to be pulling them out, and that's how stuck that they can be, because like if you don't pull it out correctly, their heads can stay in there, and they can like still like eat or whatever, and like just be in there, you know? So you really have to get the head and the entire body. And the ways that we like kill ticks too, we like burnt them, throw them in fire. I lit a bunch of them. Well, there's been a bunch of times where I got a lighter and just burnt them, because they're really hard to kill. Like they're indestructible. Like one hit, like if you just hit them with a rock, they'll take like 10 plus hits. And usually we burn them, or we just get a tissue, throw it into the toilet and flush them down, and hopefully that kills them. But there's a bunch of different spiders as well, which I don't mind. There's the biggest spider, or most common spider, is probably the daddy longlegger or the wolf spider. We've seen those a crap ton. Those are probably the most common ones. But then there's like the jumping spiders. There's house spiders. I feel like house spiders are everywhere. House spiders are really cool. And there's this one time where I had a house, like I was really little, and there's like a house spider I think it was right by the bathroom, the basement bathroom, and no one used that bathroom. And this house spider made like a little nest, and I would get like crickets and stuff and like put him, and he'd like eat like the crickets and stuff, and it was like my own little pet. I know I was a weird ass kid, so I had like house spider as a little pet, and it was like the biggest house spider that I've seen. And then there's garden spiders and stuff. I haven't really had like much experience with spiders, except for like when I lift up a rock, you see a spider. There's not like a distinct memory like I have with ticks and or hornets. I'm trying to remember other ones. And then when I was little, I think I explained this when we had Mimi the duck. I would like go around finding like bugs, lifting up bugs for her. And when I lift up a rock, she would immediately like come under and like get all the bugs that she wanted. And then there's centipedes. There's little red bugs, I think, that are poisonous, but they're like red centipedes that like go and run away and stuff. I'm trying to remember other types of bugs, but yeah, those are, I already like went over. Wasps or mosquitoes are very annoying. There's multiple times when I forgot to spray bug spray on me, and just the other week I was in Lancaster a couple weekends ago for Brendan's B-Day party, and I got lit up by mosquitoes because I forgot how much they are in Lancaster. And there's still some spots, but I counted 30 total bug bites from that day, because it was like a outside like campfire, and he has a pool and stuff, so we're outside and I was in my bare feet. There's like 15 at least like 10 bug bites alone on the top of my foot, and I was walking around barefoot because like we were swimming and stuff, and it's just crazy how many mosquitoes there are. So like there's countless times where I've been outside and just come back with a lot of bug bites on me. And then going back to the ticks, like my dad, after like he found all those ticks in my head, he started to spray for ticks. He called like the bug guy, and every year you only have to do it once, but the bug guy would come around and spray the woods, and that would basically eliminate ticks, or most of the ticks. I mean, we did find the occasional tick, but that definitely lowered the amount because we had like an infestation of ticks, and it was just crazy. So that was kind of just wrapping up the bug segment. I don't really, there's not like any significant things. I mean, there's ants too, obviously. I would occasionally put like a piece of food out for them, but I feel like it's just like normal bug stuff that everyone deals with bugs. If you're in the city, middle of nowhere, you experience different bugs. I guess the most like pertinent thing is like the different bugs in different regions. Different places obviously have different bugs, but as stories go, I feel like relatively bug stories are the same across anywhere you live. I guess except for if you have different bug types. Or categories. So when I set myself, I'm just seeing what I went over. So I went over bugs, I went over birds, I went over catcalls, beehives, and bugs. So skeletons. Let me get to skeletons because that's a major topic there. The skeletons that I found. It's just weird being in the woods because you find like all sorts of skeletons from like animals that die. Because obviously bones don't like decompose as fast, but like I found like pretty sure I found a cat's like skull, a raccoon skull. I found like squirrel skulls. I found raccoon, possum skulls. I found like a lot of skulls just from like them dying and then decomposing. And it's like, oh well, like something died here. The creepiest thing that I did find was Daniel and I, kids exploring. We were hiking and we found entire deer skull. Or deer skeleton, and it was all intact. Like you saw the hooves, you saw like the rib cage, you saw the head, and just like things have been eating it over time. Like originally there was a lot of meat on it because it was just like a fresh death. Well, not like a lot, but because we kind of found it pretty decomposed. But there's still like flesh and like fur there. But when we kept going back to this hiking trail, we always like walked past it because it was near the front of the entrance, and you just saw like the slow decomposition of it. But you could see like the rib cages, you could see the skulls and stuff, and it's just wild coming across that when you're just aimlessly walking the woods because it's kind of creepy, but then it's like kind of cool because like I would pick it up and we would examine it, and there's like the more full of a skull it was, the more rare it was. So like a lot of times it would just be the skull, but then if you could find like the bottom jaw, because usually the top jaw was still there because it's like a part of the skull, obviously. But like the bottom jaw, since it's like that attached thing, like it's not fully attached, like more often than not, that's broken off and somewhere else. And it's weird because like you only find like the skull. I guess like things eat it and eat the bones as well, so like it travels different locations, obviously. But it's weird because like normally more often than not, we only found skulls, but like teeth and stuff, usually teeth of the animals. Sorry if this is disgusting. I guess I should have put a warning on this. There's times where we found an entire full like preserved skull where it's like teeth, bottom jaw, like everything's intact, not cracked or anything, because more often than not like there's usually like some sort of like fracture or broken thing from the head. But yeah, it's just crazy stumbling along like searching skulls and what you would find and stuff. There's a lot more than you would expect, and two of the rarest things that are exciting to find is antlers. I guess that's not really a skeleton, but it's bones, or it's like a bone structure. If you find antlers in the woods, especially if you find two antlers, that's even more rare. But if you find an antler and turtle shells, those are the two rarest things to find, or the rarest things that I found there. I only found like maybe 3 or 4 total turtle shells, and then maybe one antler that I found on my own and like looked while walking with someone else maybe. And that's how rare like those kinds of like skeletons are, or bones. And finding like a turtle skull, as messed up as this is like pretty cool, because like the turtle itself is either eaten and or like completely decomposed. Or there's like when you find these turtle shells, it's just a turtle shell and nothing in it, and it's like completely clean because like insects, just regular decomposition, like completely like deep cleans these skeletons and like the turtle shells, and it's just crazy to stumble upon like a shell that's completely intact and even on the bottom, and it's cool to see because it goes completely white because it like gets dried out. So like you know how turtles are usually like dark brown or maybe even greenish, darkish brownish on some of these turtles. Underneath is like brighter, like more saturated white, more yellowishy. Not like far from what a skeleton is, because when it like skeletonizes, if that's even a word, it becomes like almost like a bleach white, or like a very like white, distinctive white, like a dead kind of white. And it's just weird to see like a healthy, like a live turtle with a healthy shell comparatively to like just a shell. But yeah, we would just like find those and we would just look at it and then like put it back. But antlers, it's very rare to see, and if you could find one, because it's like deer naturally shed off their antlers, not naturally, but like they get into fights, so one of their antlers may fall off. It's like a very natural thing. It doesn't hurt. I don't know if it hurts the deer when it does, because I feel like it has to, because it like rips, it's something getting ripped out of their like head, but like they obviously still like function and move, like it's not an instant death, and it's not even like a big injury like a deer getting shot and then running off and having to deal with that bullet wound or arrow wound. But it's just crazy like to find one, because like the way that they actually get the antlers off their head is by like scratching trees and stuff, and like fighting other deer too, because a lot of male deer fight because to show dominance, like any male and a male animal is to show dominance, and usually deers like go in herds, and it's usually one male that is the lead of the herd, and everyone follows, like all the children and all the other deer and maybe small bucks too, which is really weird because there's not a lot of bucks I see. It's just crazy, like the lone buck that you see. I kind of feel bad for lone bucks, but I guess that's for anything in the animal kingdom. But I want to expand on the turtle show, because I found a lot of turtles too, like actually alive turtles. I think I told you guys about the big box turtle that my mom found when she was driving and helped across. I forget, she named it in one of the comments. But it's just crazy to find like a turtle, especially a huge one, because I don't know, I just love turtles. Like my sister had a couple turtles in her room, and that was just a mess, but she had like an entire like aquarium, water, stones, like food. I just love feeding turtles. But yeah, we found the occasional turtle. They're usually box turtles is the most common turtles that we found, and like I have some really nice photos of me like looking at a turtle, because I think I told that story, but there was another story that I didn't. I think I told that in the beginning, so I remember telling you guys the story where like I was walking and then I just like found like a box turtle, and I showed my dad, and then he took photos of me in the backyard of them like looking at the turtle. But there's this another turtle where I found, and like playing with it, and I showed my mom and stuff, and my mom like made a little vegetable like bowl for it, like brought it out for him, and like you could see him eating and stuff. And turtles, like watching turtles eat is the most like fascinating thing, and most like it's kind of like ASMR. It's so satisfying to watch, because it's like a little guy, they're so cute, like it's like a little turtleneck eating like vegetables, and he ate everything. Like there's a lot of vegetables in there. But yeah, it's a lot of cool experiences with turtles and bone structure. I know this is an absolutely disgusting episode, but from bugs to skeletons, it's not the ideal episode, but I'm sorry that you guys have to endure that. So I went over bugs, skeleton, turtle skulls or turtle shells, antlers, bugs. I don't think I went over birds and their nests, but I went over like beehives and the cat caught. So the final two categories of this long ass series that you guys probably are definitely over, because the last one only got 8 views. But glad to say that these are the last two categories of the final episode, because I drawn this out so much that I don't got any more stories about wildlife. Maybe I'll have my mom come on and tell her some of the sides of the experiences later on, but for now, it's the last two categories, final part ever. maybe with a special experience with my mom in the off season again, but I'm gonna stop rambling so that I can finish it under 30 minutes. So let's start with massive fire. So I explained how we converted the pond into a fireplace, but I never really explained how pyromaniacs that my family is, especially my dad. It's mainly just me, my dad, and my uncle Tony, but we're pyromaniacs, and my family has a lot of fires because most of them live in the woods. So like my aunt Melissa has a lot of fires, and we would go over to her house and have a lot of campfires there, and we would like camp on Labor Day weekend at her house. We did that for like 5 years, and then we would go to like different locations. I remember a couple campfires at my grandpa's house with a metal thing, and yeah, so I have a lot of experience making fires, and I was in the Boy Scouts for 1 year and got bored of it. But I was a master fire starter before that because my dad, he knew, because he loves making fires and my uncle loves making fires. So the first thing that he said, or the first thing that he did, was taught me how to keep a safe fire and actually how to start a fire fast, like a campfire. I know this is not a tutorial, but but what he taught me was like, always make sure it's the pit and safe, and make sure that there's no leaves around it. Make sure that you're not putting a bunch of dry leaves into it, because when you put like leaves into a fire, it like crackles, and then it smokes, and he hated when the neighborhood got smoked out due to my fires, and there's been a few instances where I've had a fire on my own, because I throughout summer and spring and fall time I'd have like fires by myself, because I just love fires that much, and there's not much to do in my neighborhood, so I was having a lot of fires, but I always made sure not to have a lot of smoke. But every time he caught me having too much smoke, he always got annoyed. He was like, "Caleb, you're smoking out the neighborhood. Calm it down." And I would have to frantically, like, within 5 minutes, like, try to control the fire. But he always got, like, annoyed, but not ever, like, mad or pissed off. It was just, like, a funny kind of annoyed. Like, "Caleb, control the fire, control the fire." And then he'd, like, come out and help me, and we were, like, trying to control the fire together. But yeah, dry leaves and greenery would make a lot of smoke. And the ambers, when you put in leaves, ambers, like, because the leaves are so light, they would just go up into the air, and it could cause like a wildfire. But so like that's one of the lessons he taught me. But he always taught me to put like newspaper is the best because it's the easiest to light. He always says, grab some newspaper, grab a lighter, go out there, put a bunch of small twigs and medium twigs and then logs, and that's how you start like a fire. And like he showed me, and I would just like practice, and I'd practice, and like I had hundreds of fires in my lifetime, and now if you wanna see me make a fire from start to finish, there's a time lapse on the Eagles update video that I just uploaded last week, I believe, or this week. I think it was early this week. But if you wanna see my fire skills, I did a time lapse of me starting a fire. Sadly, it destroyed the campfire set, but I have a lot of experience making fires. That's just to preface like kind of how pyromaniacs we are. But we had 2 campfires. One was the main one in which we used all the time, and then maybe like a decade later we built the one in the pond, reconstructed the pond into a fireplace, and then we started to use that one more because it was such a nice fireplace because it was a hole in the ground with like bricks around it, and like my dad filled in around it, and there's like dirt around it, and you put grass on it, and you put like these slates around it and chairs on it, so it was a lot. And it was like, you didn't have to go in the woods to have this fire, and you didn't have to worry as much for catching the woods on fire. Ironically enough, next story I'm going to tell is how we accidentally caught our woods on fire for a split second. But it's a lot safer spot than what the other campfire was in, and it's a lot more people can comfortably sit on it because it's like a lawn area. It's in the backyard where the lawn is, so like people can just like walk from the back door and from the patio onto like the campfire area. It's like a shorter distance as well, and it's like more comfortable, more seats. You're not on a slanted hill, because where the original OG campfire place was, it was like on a hill and it's kind of slanted because of erosion and stuff. So that's where we had our main fires, and we've had gigantic fires. And before we moved out, we had like a lot of wooden. When we were kind of deep cleaning the house and throwing a lot of shit out, my dad and I had like 3 or 4 massive fires, and like my aunts came over, my uncle came over, a few times or a couple times for these massive fires before we moved out. But we would put in like whole. If you want to check it out, go on my TikTok called Bend Over, and there's a lot of fires of this like same events. If you want to go check that out, I'm not gonna implement that in because I'm too lazy. Damn, my laptop's overheating, but it's good. It's working. It's working. It's getting warmed up. Like we would put in like whole ass desks. Like we would put in drawers, like huge ass drawers. I'm wanting to scan like the size of like the desk that we were putting in is like that big, and the size of like the hold on, let me just the size of like the drawers there is like that big, and we would put like that entire thing into like the campfire place, and that just gets a sense of kind of how that's such an awkward angle, but it's towards the end. I don't really care as long as you can hear me correctly. But that's how big the pit was that we were able to put those size things in, and we would put that one at a time, and we would just watch it burn. And we always had the hose nearby, so in case one of these massive fires did jump out, like the one story that I'm getting to shortly. Yeah, it was just gigantic fires, and some of them got like 20 feet, 25 feet in the air. It was just crazy how big they got. We always put a shit ton of wood and it was just a good time, and we've had it for like 3 years, hundreds. Probably had dozens of fires in there, all equally big, and we would just put like, we would sometimes got lazy and just put in like huge ass logs and like trees that are just cut in thirds, and we put Christmas trees in there, and it was just a lot of fires, a lot of heat, and we as a family, we just love fires. But the one fire that kind of got dangerous was, so this was the pit where we just like made the brick around, and we haven't covered the outside edge where the pond was because we made the fireplace smaller than what the pond was, so there's still like 3 feet of just dirt and a pit where it's just dirt. And so leaves were collecting this like pit around, and we had a fire with like, I think a couple of my cousins, a couple of my aunts, and my Uncle Tony. But it was just like a normal fire. We weren't putting anything like it was just like a lot of wood, but it wasn't big. It was maybe like, it was just a regular campfire that you would have. And we didn't think any of it, so we were like, oh, okay. And usually what we didn't put it out. We don't like putting it out with water because we like to have everything burn in and turn into ash, so we can have a clean slate the next time that we burn. It's just more satisfying, and we can get a lot more debris out of like the woods and clean up the woods a lot faster doing that method, because like our fires last a while, and some of our fires like last into the morning, but that's besides the point. The point is that during this fire, it was just like a normal fire. We weren't putting any crazy things into it, like furniture or anything. But everyone was leaving because it was late, so we before like everyone left, we were just hung out. We didn't put any more wood in. We let the fire die down until it was just ambers and stuff. And so we left, like all the cousins left. Everyone left except for my Uncle Tony. And his wife now, Chris. So it was Chris, Uncle Tony, me, and my dad. And we went inside and we were talking like in the kitchen area at the dining table, and we were just like chatting before like they left and they were about to leave, but we just wanted to continue the conversation a little bit more inside. But Steve was outside, one of my cousins. He was outside, and then he came inside and he was like, yo, the fire's like out of the pit. And then he just left. He was like, oh, bye. And we just looked out and it was like, oh, okay, so it was just on the outer rim part where it was just dirt, grass and stuff, and we were like, oh, okay, so if it just stay, I'm going to reset the camera. It is going to go over half an hour. Wow, this is the first wildlife experience that goes over half an hour, and it's the final special, so it makes sense. So he comes inside, says that like it's out of the fire. We look out, we glance outside and realize that's just in the outer rim, so it's just like dirt and then grass. There's no way that it could jump out. Or at least we thought, jump out onto the side, because if you remember, we had this rock wall, and so it was basically 2 levels to our backyard. Two levels to our backyard, where it was just like the ground level where the grass and kind of, nice area of the backyard. The nicer area is the grass area, and then we have the wooden stone wall, and then we have about maybe 15 feet of dirt of a hill that's kind of elevated, and like this is where the entire like neighborhood's kind of, or the entire part of this development is kind of elevated and everyone's like built on it, so we're kind of on the lowest part. And so we have this rock roll, and then we have a side of dirt that's probably like 5 feet around with like leaves and brush. Brush was growing there on this like little hill area. And then it's flat, plain wooden area, like normal, that we would always walk on trails and stuff on. Mini trails in our backyard that we like created so that we can walk back there in our backyard. This outer range, there's no way, we thought at least that it could jump out because it was just another layer of the pit. Like it was inside the pit still. It was just the dirt area instead of inside the rock, inside the brick area. So we were like, oh, okay, we saw that. And we were like, oh, okay, nothing of it. And then I was like, oh, I have to go pee. So I left the conversation. And then I look out, and it was a lot brighter than it was because, like, again, when we go inside from a fire, we usually stay up like an hour or two just to make sure. And I was young too, so I usually stayed up until 2 in the morning anyway. And after big fires like that, I always went upstairs just to double check everything. And everything's okay. But this time, I went to the bathroom and I look outside and it was a lot brighter. And I was like, wait a second. This shouldn't be as bright as it is because it was dying and it shouldn't be as bright as it is now. I was like, what? So because like the curtains were closed, so I just saw like brightness. And so I go up to the window and I look through. And I see that the fire has jumped out of the dirt area onto the side of the hill. And it started to slowly creep up to the top part. And if it got to the top part of this land, then it would have been nasty. But luckily there wasn't a lot of sticks and a lot of brush that the fire could actually clamp onto, and it was just leaves. Because like usually we keep that area clean of sticks and stuff because we usually need a lot of sticks for our huge ass fires to start. So we always like collect a lot of sticks and brush from like the side of the hill, and we usually keep it pretty clean. And so it's just like leaves. And I was like, oh crap. So I run back to the kitchen area, and it's like the same. The kitchen, you can like see the living room through. It's like an open living room with like a one wall dividing the 2 rooms. But I'm like, I turn around and I like, guys, the fire, like there's a wildfire. We need to get out there and hose. And I was kind of laughing because like not laughing, but I was more shocked, and I was like, because we joke around a lot. Me and my family is like, oh my gosh, the woods are on fire. Like we make like outlandish jokes like that, and like kind of jokes is like to catch people off guard and be like kind of keep them on their toes. So it's kind of like our jokes are in that realm where it's like, oh my gosh, the woods are on fire, and then everyone's like, what? Panics for a little second, and like the person who told the jokes is like, I got you guys. So it's like kind of jokes like that. So I was like, crap, if I say like the woods are on fire, then they're probably going to think I'm joking. And for a split second, I think they thought that I was joking. But I was trying to, when I was like explaining, it's like the woods are on fire, I was trying to lead by example too. I was putting on my shoes quickly, and I was trying to, in a rush. I was like, the woods are on fire, we need to spray it down. So we like rush out, we see what's happening. My dad's like, oh shit. He runs back inside because it was in October, so like he turned off the hose because like he doesn't want like the pipes to freeze and stuff. And it was like getting winter, and usually like you turn off your hose so like it doesn't freeze. And so he runs downstairs, turns it on, and meanwhile like we were panicking. Like we had the hose like all curled up and stuff and all neatly away, but it was still attached to the side of the house, but we had it like in the corner of the house, all neatly away for when summer comes. But like my uncle and I, as my dad was running down, and Chris was just kind of watching, and it was just funny. And she was like, hurry, and she didn't really know what to do, so she just started to take photos and stuff, which was funny. And my uncle and I were struggling because we were in a hurry, and like the hose got knotted and it was all tangled and stuff. We got it like tangled, and like there's one point where we were rushing in, like he trips over it and like falls, not like hard or anything, but it was like a Three Stooges. It reminded me of the Three Stooges kind of event where they're kind of like all running around and stuff, and like he falls, and then my dad comes. He's like, it's on, start spraying. So he starts spraying it, and Chris at this point had like bowls and buckets, and she got it from the kitchen, was like laying it on, and like we were spraying, and it was just like a frantic like madness for 2 seconds. But we got it all under control in like 2 seconds. We immediately saw it, and yeah, that could have been a lot deadlier than it was. But it provided great soil for that hill, because that dirt around in that hilly area is not good at all, because it's like very dry and not moist, and it's eroding constantly. So even if we had good dirt there, it would just erode right away. But it was just like such a funny moment, and like that happened like 4 or 5 years ago, and every time that someone brings it up, we always laugh and stuff. But it was just like the little quarter of the thing got singed, and like it got like charcoaled, and that was like the worst experience that we had. But we had like massive fires, and it was just crazy, and we always kept it safe. There was not like we always had like 2 measures, like make sure that the fire went all the way down, and just like making sure. But it was crazy how hot some of the fires were, because the longest fire that I had was spanned 2 nights and a day and a morning, because it was the campfire, the OG campfire, and we were having a fire, and a lot of people came over, and so we were having a fire late into the night, and so we decided some of our stools that we made were like huge logs, like that big, so we would like dig a hole and put them in so people could sit, but like one of these logs, it got rotten, or not rotten, but it got kind of dilapidated, rotten I guess, but not like complete dirt, so we like put it on top, and we were just had like a fire like normal and stuff, and it was pretty big, and so we just left it burn, and the next morning it was still smoking and stuff. And we were like, holy crap, it's still smoking. So like we had a morning fire, like my dad and I. He made breakfast, and we went out, and as he was making breakfast, like I started the fire, and we just like ate breakfast outside. And I was bored that day. I think it was a Saturday, and I was just seeing how long I could keep this fire going for. And I just kept it going all day, and my dad was like, how the hell are you still doing it? And he like joined me at nighttime and stuff, and I was like, damn, this fire has been really going for like a full 24 hours now. It's like, yeah, this is pretty impressive. So like we went back inside, and the log was probably quarter of its size by now, and we went back inside, and the next morning we woke up, and it was still hot. It wasn't smoking, but like we lifted it up, and there was still charcoals, and I started like a mini fire, because like I just wanted to like a last little burst. So, and then the entire like log at that point that was this big was completely ash. I don't know why, but it's just so satisfying to watch things turn into ash, like wood, and like it's just like everything turns into ash. Like it doesn't matter like the kind of weird angles, weird like turns, or weird formations of like certain logs. It's just, or how big, how thick, like it's. And you just put it on, and it's like it disappears into ash. I just find that so satisfying. I just want to see how. I had like a plan when I was living there to start a live stream, and I would just live stream, and I had this whole plan where, like I was going to get this tent for when it rains and snows, so it covers the fire, and I was going to like cut a bunch of wood, cause like I'm like I could probably have a fire this entire summer. That's how good I am, and that's how much wood we have, and I'm like, that's how confident as I was. And I was like, what if I just like set up a cam, and it just shows the entire campfire area and all the wood and stuff, and it just shows, it's just like, you know how those 10-hour fireplaces for Christmas and stuff, and it's like 10 hours or a full live stream for when Christmas comes, and you put it in the background. I was thinking like, this is such a good idea, because it's like it's like that, but it's in the real world, and then you have like the birds chirping, you have like when it rains, different environments, and you have someone actually interacting with the live stream too. So it's like, I was like, that's such a good idea, but I just never went around to it, and just because of the logistics, I didn't really try. 1, 2, I didn't really know the logistics of it, because like I was thinking of using this camera now, but I was like, how am I going to get it all worked up, and how am I like, this is not going to last all summer. I would have to keep changing batteries, I would have to keep getting up changing it, so I was like, maybe a webcam, but I was like, so I need a laptop, but I need my laptop, so I'm like, we need to buy another laptop for this. Just a mess, and logistically I couldn't accomplish it. But maybe when I'm 30 years old, I'm going to get famous He was like going to see my going to see my face after like 5 years and be like, oh my god, I remember this kid making YouTube videos at such a young age. Maybe I'll start that up when I'm in the woods and settle down with a family or something, because I do still want to do that, because I think it's a really good idea. I do genuinely want to see how long I could have a fire for. I want to look up, maybe I'll get back to you later on it, but I do genuinely want to see if I can do that. And I want to see the Guinness World Record for the longest fire. I'm actually going to look that up, because I genuinely am curious about what's the world's longest fire. I guess the man-made fire. I guess, yeah, because I know there's that one place in Pennsylvania that the coal mines that are constantly on fire, and it's been on fire for like 80 years because just of the amount of coal there is. I forget the name of it. The longest fire in the world. The longest fire in the world. And Eastern Australia, these three components have been going strong since prehistoric times, leading to the longest lasting fire in the world. A scorcher that has burned beneath Mount Wengen in New South Wales for at least 5,500 years, although some geologists suspect it could be up to 500,000 years old. How do you go from 5,500 years to 500,000 years? That's such a huge... That's like 20 times, like 1 billion times its size. What the hell? I feel like... That's kind of what I was talking about with the one in Pennsylvania, how it's been going on for such a long time. A coal-seam fueled internal flame in Australia known as the Burning Mountain. So I guess the Burning Mountain that's not man-made is 6,000 years. But I want to know what's like the man-made Mount Wengen. I want to look up man-made, the longest man-made fire. The longest man-made fire. A coal seam fuel. It just keeps bringing up Burning Mountain. A coal mine fire has been... Oh yeah. So Burning Mountain is claimed to be the longest. A coal mine fire in Centura, Pennsylvania has been burning beneath the borough since 1962. So 1962 is what I was literally talking about. It's a coal mine, but the Bahram fire at the fire temple in Iran is thought to be the oldest human-made internal flame at more than 1,500 years old. It has been burning since 470 AD, and it can be witnessed by practicing who's tended to it over countless generations. Damn, that's insane. That ash pile must be gigantic. Wait, I just want to look this up because that ash just must be insane. 1,500 years? That's actually really cool, not gonna lie, because like fires just last forever, so like you can literally just add stuff to it. I'm just looking it up. Oh, okay, so it's just like a little thing there. What the fuck, why is my thing doing that? That's so weird. That's such a weird lighting thing. But like if you can see it. Yeah. It's like that. I guess they just like replace the ash and keep the ambers going, I guess. But that's really cool. But I wanna live stream and just see how long I could burn in a fire for. And I want the live stream to be hundreds of hours long. But maybe I'll do that in my 30s or sometime in my late 20s, whenever I settle down again. But that's my experience with large fires. And I think there's something else too. Hold on, let me just look at my notes. And then this is... So birds and their nests is the last thing I'm going to talk about. I guess fire should have been the last thing. This is 45 minutes long. Damn. A long-ass podcast. But it's worth it. It's the last podcast of this part, so it's worth it. So this is the last segment, last category. Let's go. Last category of this boring-ass, for you guys, boring-ass fucking podcast. But it's really exciting to document all these stories. But... bird nests, not much to it. The eagle's nest that I explained, like, when my dad and I were hiking near a trail at our house, it was probably like 10 miles away. There's this one trail you can walk by and you can just see like a family of like bald eagles. There's like a dozen of them and they have gigantic nests and stuff. But where I live is like robins, there's sparrow like nests and stuff. Sparrow is probably the most common, but you would see them all the time, and every time when you see one, it's like, oh look, there's a bird's nest. And sometimes there's bird's nests in like underneath our cove and stuff, or not cove, but there's an underpass to get into the backyard door or back way. There's like a little underpass that birds can just like hide out in, and it's make nests there. There's nests in butterfly bushes, low-hanging trees, and we would just like find them all the time. And every time when you find one, or every time when I found one, I'd always run to my dad and be like, "Oh my gosh, look at this." But I don't know if this is a myth or if it's true, but apparently you're not supposed to touch the eggs of the birds, because if you do touch the eggs, then the birds will like smell it, be like, "Oh fuck, we shouldn't go over there since it's a human smell, so danger." And then so they wouldn't come back to the nest and basically abandon the baby birds. But I don't know if that's a myth or not. But it's so fascinating watching. Like, there's been multiple times where we watched a nest of babies, or a bird's nest, and that has eggs in it. Usually blue eggs. We're common. I think those are robin eggs, I believe. But we would just like pay attention and take like update photos, and like a few week span where it goes from like little eggs to baby birds, and then they fly away, and it's just a cool experience to experience that. And there's been like a time where I accidentally like knocked a couple eggs over, but baby eggs over, but it's just cool to see that, and just to see the little baby birds. And it's cool to see it. I don't think I've ever seen it before, but like a robin feeding like its baby birds and stuff. And like it's a common food for gardeners things, because like I remember a couple of times where I went, there's like eggs, and then the next day like all the eggs are gone except for like one egg. So like I know that's not like they didn't hatch and unhatched, but because like the birds would still obviously be there the next day even if it does hatch. But it's kind of sad because it's like a snake probably got those 2 or 3 eggs. But yeah, that's just my experience. I guess I should have led with that one because that was so short. But yeah, that's kind of sad now. I'm going to put up all my mom's comments on all the stories that we had throughout the time, all the screenshots that she's been commenting, because when I had these stories, she's always been like, "I remember this one time, and she's brought up different stories that I didn't talk about, and she brought up more in depth from her side, and it's just interesting some of the things that she brought up. So yeah, so this is part 7. Maybe I'll have her on during the off season, but yeah, this is the last random topic podcast. I think I'm gonna upload this one before this one that's exporting now. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, even though not many people watch this series, but it was a lot of fun. Honestly, I had a lot of fun talking about all my memories from when I was growing up. Maybe I'll pick a different topic and talk about that and explain all my life stories, and my entire life is just going to be on the internet. But comment below if you want to see a new topic, and maybe I'll start that up in the off season. But yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to keep League of the Wings up after the off season though. I think I'm going to keep it up until I'm done with school possibly. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure talking about my experiences in the woods and wildlife in my neighborhood. So many different stories from so many different events happen just in one area, and it's crazy how many different stories can happen in one location. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Here are my mom's screenshots, and yeah, see ya. Out.